Okay, so the last step that we need to take in order to get ready for theme development is we need to set up our site and our theme to have some plugins and some content that will help us to develop themes a little bit better. So I opened up this page on WordPress.org, which is called the Theme Handbook, and I'll share this link in the course. In here, you should be able to see in step number 1, a link that says how to set up your development environment. If you open that link, then it's going to come to a place that talks a little bit about what I already showed you how to do, which is setting up your WordPress development environment with LAMP or WAMP or even MAMP. Setting up a text editor like we set up our Visual Studio Code. And then we get down here to kind of the nitty-gritty of what we need to set up next. So we need to make sure that we've got WP debug enabled in our WP config file. In order to do that, going to need to open up Visual Studio Code and add the folder to this so that we can modify the WP config file. You can go to File, Open, go ahead and browse to your local sites on your computer. It should be probably in your root directory or your user directory. Local sites, find the child theme or the site that we made, EDX child, click app, and then public. The public folder contains all of the public files for WordPress, and that's what we want to open. We're going to be modifying the WP config file, but we want the whole public folder so that we can also check the content, which includes our plugins and themes. So just go ahead and click public and open. It'll open everything in here. You can click your WP config file. If your PHP code sniffer starts sniffing these files and starts popping up errors, don't really need to worry about that right now. I really want the code sniffer more for when we're doing themes. You don't need to worry about any of these standard WordPress files. So in here, we're going to need to define some constants for WP debug. If you go back to that blog, that website, you can see the first one is WP debug false. We need to make it WP debug true so that we can always see some errors if we make any errors when we're coding. So let's go in here, paste in WP debug true. You can see up in this file, I don't have it anywhere else. I don't have WP debug anywhere else, so I paste it down there. The next thing I want to do is I want to get my debug log. I want to make a log file. If I get any errors, it will default to store error messages in debug.log inside the WP content directory. So I want to assign this constant as well. Copy that, paste it into WP config. And then the last thing is I want to also show these messages in the HTML files if there are any errors. So I want to do this one last. WP debug display true. Let's copy that. Come over here, paste it into our WP config file, and then we can save this file. Now we've got our debug set up in WP config. So now we can set up our theme a little bit. Scroll down this page a little bit more. The next step we need is we need to add some test data to our website. We've got two options, wp.org theme unit test data or wordpress.com theme unit test data. So wordpress.com is a little bit more specific for wordpress.com, including like auto embeds, short codes, things like that. So we don't really need to worry about this one. But we can grab this one, the wordpress.org theme unit test data. Go ahead and click that link, open it in a new window. And the file that we want is right here. We need to save this file, the XML file. So we can just click that to download it directly. So we can right click that, save it to our desktop, or we could save it into our local sites directory, into our child theme. Actually, I'll just save it directly into the local sites root. Let's save it in there. And let's make sure that your local site is running. So if you have created the first site you can start the site up here and then make sure that you view the admin. So let's go to the admin, log in with your username and password. And then we can come over here to our tools. In tools, we click import, install the WordPress importer so that we can import this file. Now we can run the importer. We can grab that XML file that we saved and import it. So now we can download and import all the file attachments so that every picture and image and everything is going to be used in this WordPress site. Submit that. It's going to take a little while to run because it needs to go and fetch all the content, fetch all the images, and then add it to our site. So while it's doing this, you can go get a cup of coffee if you want, or you can prepare for the next step. The next step, if you go back to that theme handbook, is we want to add some plugins. So of these plugins, the best one to add is this developer plugin, because the developer plugin actually allows you to add a bunch of these other plugins. In fact, all of them except Query Monitor. So let's go to the plugin site for developer, open in a new tab. This one is a little bit hard to find if you go to your admin, if you go to your WordPress admin and search for it in the add new plugins. It's hard to find because it hasn't been tested with the latest 3 releases of WordPress, so it doesn't really show up. So this is the easiest way to grab it. Just come here, download this file. Then we can go back to our WordPress admin and we can start installing some plugins. My WordPress now has all of its content. So if I go back to the homepage, this is the original default homepage with just a Hello World post. Now that I've added the theme unit test data, if I refresh this page, you'll see some big changes. Now I've got a template sticky at the top. I've got a new menu. I've got a lot of new content, including block images, things like this. And so this is exactly what we want. This is how we want to test the theme unit test data now, so that we can style our, so that we can create our child theme. Let's go back to our admin. Let's go to plugins and add new plugin. We want to upload this developer plugin that we've got. So grab it, drag it up to choose file, install now. Activate the plugin. Once you activate this plugin, it's going to give you some options for what kind of thing are you working on right now. So we are going to be working on a theme for a self-hosted WordPress installation. You can save changes, and then it will bring up a bunch of other plugins that we can install to help us. So I do like almost all of these, but I'm just going to grab a couple of them for now. So I'm going to grab the debug bar, rewrite rules inspector, log deprecated notices. The monster widget is really important because that allows us to add all kinds of widgets into our sidebar so that we can style them all appropriately. We can add user switching so that we can change between a user or an admin. If you're doing a right to left theme, like where the language reads from the right to the left, then you can add this one to test that. Regenerate thumbnails allows us to change the sizes of our featured images and regenerate all of those. Simply show IDs also is pretty good. Theme check, we're going to need this when we're ready to check our theme, and I think that's all I really need right now. Let's get developing. So now that we've got a couple of new plugins installed, if you refresh this page, you should see all of those pop up. Yeah, and so what we can do is we can activate all of these, but I like to activate them one by one just in case I get some error messages. So let's do simply show IDs, let's do log deprecated notices, let's do debug bar. That looks great. There's one more plugin that I found really useful, and that is if you go to add new, you can search for one called which template. Which template file, what this does is this allows us to see which template WordPress is loading. And so this is really useful when we go to different pages of our website so that we know which template we need to be modifying. So I like this one a lot. Install now. And activate. So now that we've got our WP debug constant set, we've got our test data imported, and we've got our plugins ready to go. We're ready to move on to the next step, which is to start developing our first theme, child theme. See you in the next video.